Hello, I'm Brooke Cormier, and I'm a full-time artist, and today I'm going to show you how to make these super cute mushroom ornaments. Thank you, Shopify, for sponsoring this video. So here's what you'll need. You can either use oranges or clementines depending on how big you want your mushrooms to be, and you can get an idea of the size difference here. Start by cutting your citrus fruit directly in half, making sure these little nub things are at the top and bottom. Then scoop the inside out with a spoon and have yourself a little snack. Do your best to try and get all the fleshy parts out because this will help prevent mold in the drying process. I recommend cutting some extra oranges just because the drying process can be a little bit finicky and you might end up with some really wonky looking peels or even moldy ones, which you're probably not going to want to use. It'll take a bit less than a week for the peels to fully dry, and I find that the clementine peels dry a lot faster than the orange peels, but regardless, you're going to want to keep them in a dry and warm space. I have personally found that letting them dry face down will preserve their shape a little better. But if you have a cup and a pickleball laying around, I find that this method actually works the best. So while those are drying, it's time to go out and find our mushroom stalks. We've come to the fun part of the process, and that is looking for sticks. I have got my saw here in case we need to saw some stuff, and I also have brought a orange peel for reference because we really want to make sure that we get the cap to stalk ratio just right. Well, would you look at that? A perfect stick. That's some good wood. It's just right. Don't get my pimple patches in it. I'm really happy with today's stick finds. We are making amanita mushrooms and bolete mushrooms, and boletes tend to have a thicker stalk. So this is a good amount of girth for a bolete. So let's go get these cleaned up, shall we? If you find some nicer looking sticks, you can skip right over this part, but this stick needs some cleaning up. So I'm gonna use this giant knife to whittle it down a bit. Okay, that is looking much better. So now I have to make a cut to decide how tall the mushroom will be. And so I'm gonna use one of these orange peels as a guide. And I think we're gonna mark it off with a pencil around the 3-inch mark. And then I'll take my handy dandy saw and chop it up. Nice. And because I'm a perfectionist, I'm also gonna sand it down a bit, just to clean up the edges. Once your orange peels have completely dried, it is now time to paint them. I'm going to be using an orange peel to make an amanita mushroom, and I'm going to be using a clementine peel to make a bolete. And I like to look at a reference photo while I do this part just so that I can make them look as realistic as I can. Honestly, painting is optional. If you're in a hurry or don't have the right painting supplies, I think these mushrooms still look really good with a natural cap. I like to paint the edges of the cap yellow, and then as I move closer to the center of the cap, it becomes more and more red. For the white dots, I like to put an excess of paint here just to give it a bit of texture. With the bolete, I start with a light brown around the edges and then work towards a darker brown in the center of the cap. And then I like to paint the very edge an off-white color. Once the paint is dried, it's time to attach the cap to the stock, and for that I use super glue. And I hold this firmly together for about 20 seconds. Now, in order to hang these bad boys, I'm going to use a screw eye. I got these screw eyes off of Amazon, and I'll leave the links to all the materials that I use below for your reference. This will also make sure that the cap doesn't separate from the stock, so make sure that you're positioning it right in the center and screwing into the stick. All that's left now is to loop some string through these holes so that they can be easily hung. They're so cute! I actually can't stop making them. Sometimes I find a project that just tickles my brain and I get a little bit obsessed. And honestly, because I'm a full-time painter, sometimes I feel a bit guilty when I invest my time into anything other than painting, because I'm like,
girl, do your job.
But then I think, hey, I'm an artist, so as long as I'm creating, I am doing my job. And thanks to my Shopify store, I can sell whatever I create, whether that's a painting, a print, a piece of jewelry, or a sweet little mushroom ornament. If you're a friend of my channel, you probably heard me talk about Shopify before because I've been using them for the past 8 years, but if you don't know, Shopify is a commerce platform that allows you to start, grow, and manage a business. I built my entire website on Shopify, and it's been a key tool in helping me make a living from my work. I use it to send out my newsletters, to fulfill and ship my orders, and to see details about where and how my customers shop. When it comes to these ornaments, I think I want to sell them in person, and Shopify makes that really easy. They have Tap to Pay on iOS, and they just launched Tap to Pay on Android. It's a contactless payment feature that allows businesses to accept payments using just your iPhone or Android. No card reader necessary. I use Shopify to sell all of my creations, and you can too. You can even steal the techniques that I'm teaching you in this video and make yourself an entire mushroom ornament business. Because guess what? Shopify also has the best converting checkout on the planet. So if you'd like to get started with Shopify, you can use the link shopify.com/BrookeCormier and get yourself a free trial. Thank you, Shopify, for sponsoring this video. I think that we can agree that these mushroom ornaments are already pretty darn cute, but we can take them to a whole nother level of whimsical by adding a slug. So let me tell you a story. I was eating an olive one day and I spit out the pit and I thought to myself, hey, that kind of looks like a slug. And so this idea was born. And I'm not gonna lie, this part is pretty labor intensive. It's totally optional, but it's so worth it because they are so cute. So let's get started. Here's what you're gonna need to make your slug. When you look at an olive pit, there's a pretty obvious curved side to it, and that'll be the back of the slug. And what we're gonna do is sand down the bottom side here to make it flat. So that is sanded down very nicely, and in the anatomy of an olive pit, there is usually one end that is a little bit pointier and thinner towards the end, and that will be the tail end of the slug. Now that we've identified the tail end of the slug, we're going to drill a small hole in the tentacle end. I'm using the smallest drill bit in my toolbox for my quite large drill, so if you have a Dremel at home, I would probably recommend using that instead.
Adult supervision advised.
Honestly, there's probably an easier way to attach the tentacles to the slug, but this is the method that I've been using just because it's very strong and I don't have to worry about the dainty little tentacles snapping off after. But if you have any alternative methods that you could recommend, then please let me know in the comments. Next, we're going to attach the tentacles to the slug, and for that we use thin wire and jewelry pliers. It helps to use pliable wire here. You want to be able to bend it pretty easily. We're going to work with around a 1.5 to 2 inch piece of wire. Fold that piece of wire in half to make a U shape. Flip the slug over so that the flat edge is up, and then stick the 2 pointy ends of the wire through the hole that you made. Push the wire through so that it's about halfway. Then bend the loop end of the wire upwards towards the top of the slug. Now lace the pointy end of the wire through that loop and pull it until it's tight. Your tentacles should look a little something like this. Time to cut the tentacles so that they're a bit shorter, approximately 1/2 centimeter. Now use your jewelry pliers to curl in the edges of the wire. This is what forms little eyeballs. It's now time to paint the slug. I've got my reference photo here, and as you can see, the tentacle portion of the slug is a little bit darker than the rest of the body. So to achieve that effect, I'm going to use some acrylic paint in the shade Burnt Umber. With my paintbrush, I'm just covering all the wire with paint, and I'm also using a bit of paint to fill in that hole that I made. Once the paint is dry, the final step is to coat the slug with this gloss glaze for a nice slimy look. I can't stop making these.
I love them so much.
I don't know about you guys, but I feel like the slugs are just the cherry on top. I actually started making these back in May in preparation for my sister's baby shower, which my mom and I were hosting. I made the theme of the shower moss, mushrooms, and motherhood because my mom had sent me an Instagram reel of somebody making these mushrooms from oranges and sticks, and I saw it and I thought to myself, I'm taking this craft to the next level. And I added a slug. And then I started making these little clusters of mushrooms from peanuts and acorns. And I preserved my own little mounds of moss using glycerin and methanol. I collected and made pine cone ornaments, and I hand-picked all these wildflowers and arranged like 30 bouquets. I was completely unhinged, but I loved it. I think that becoming fixated on a project that you're excited about can be a huge creativity booster, especially if it's something that you're trying for the first time. You will inevitably be faced with challenges that will make you think outside the box and help you come up with innovative ideas, which I think is an exercise that helps in all aspects of life. So I encourage you to get obsessed with something. Try it, fail, try it again, make it better, and enjoy the ride. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you end up actually making these ornaments, I would love to see your own creation, so please tag me on Instagram at Brooke Cormier. Oh, slug on my face. Please let me know in the comments what your latest obsessions have been. This year, mine have been jewelry making, gardening, and making these mushrooms. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. I post all kinds of videos that relate to artistic life in one way or another. I hope you have a fantastic day. I'm Brooke Cormier, and I'll see you next time.